And I'll give the floor to the Russian Federation. Vassily, you have the floor.
Thank you, Sven, Mr. President. Let me first thank Mark Lowcock for his briefing. We have heard a lot today in terms of deteriorating humanitarian situation. We were not able to receive answers to our questions at the last meeting. We hope it will be different this time. We studied carefully the Secretary General's report on review of the UN humanitarian cross-line and cross-border operations, and would like to flag the following. The report cites economic problems inside Syria, such as price increases and shortages in some basic goods, but it ignores unilateral sanctions. We need Secretary General's assessments on how unilateral economic measures worsen economic situation and hinder fighting COVID-19. On humanitarian access to the Northwest, according to OCHA's reports, no cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed so far in the region. So why does it say in paragraph 14 of the report that the joint mission by the UN, ICRC and Syrian Arab Red Cross to Idlib, approved by the government of Syria, was temporarily put on hold due to COVID-19 related concerns? What are these concerns? We have different information. That it was Hayat Tahrir al-Sham that blocked this delivery. To us, the reason is obvious. HTS does not want it. It undermines its monopoly on controlling cross-border assistance. We all know that Idlib is controlled by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, but the cross-border operations have always been regular. The resonating story with arbitrary levies by terrorists at Bab al-Hawa border crossing in Idlib in the end of 2018 did not prevent the continuation of the UN cross-border operations there. Even the Board of Inquiry, in its report of April 6, admitted the financial accountability problems of humanitarian operations in Idlib. The UN doesn't know to whom it pays and can't track the final distribution of aid. During the last 5 years, we continuously underlined the necessity of making a list of implementing partners, detailed nomenclature of supplies, systematic and preliminary notification of Syrian authorities, as well as marking of convoys. But nothing of this has been taken on board. We would like to get back to the Secretary General's February report on alternative modalities for the border crossing of Al-Yarubiyah, since it contains much more food for thought, especially now when the ongoing campaign for reopening of Al-Yarubiyah heats up and new arguments are taken out of an old box. No clear explanation is provided on why 5 other cross points to the east of Euphrates, controlled by Damascus, cannot be used. In the Secretary General's report, it is clearly said that the usage of those 5 would not require the UN Security Council authorization. We understand the problem to use these crossing points is that it will entail request of Damascus consent. As for recommendations in the report on the improvement of cross-line deliveries, which do allegedly not function properly, but which are the source of the bulk of humanitarian assistance in Syria, the solution depends only on one thing, on whether there is strong interest of humanitarians to deliver aid to those most in need, rather than to invent artificial obstacles and blame Damascus. When the government of Syria is required, para 47C, to, I quote, improve access to all areas and facilities within Northeast to ensure that assistance reaches all people in need, impartially and without discrimination, end quote. The OCHA does forget that some of these areas are not under Damascus control, and as such, it simply cannot guarantee the demanded provisions. These issues are to be negotiated with local authorities. Does the UN have a plan on how to do it and how to guarantee on its part that the assistance will reach the most vulnerable? And that applies from wherever such assistance comes from. And here comes another recommendation, para 47D, quote, facilitation of deliveries by local authorities in the Northeast to all locations without delay, end quote. Whose prerogative is it to negotiate with local authorities? Who should be responsible for it? Who is the UN addressing this question to? Maybe our American colleagues can help with that. I want to welcome the first road convoy of the WHO to the Northeast. We definitely need to study carefully this example. ICRC and Médecins Sans Frontières keep on working in the east to the east of Euphrates as well. It means that no matter how complicated conditions are, there are possibilities to deliver humanitarian aid to the northeast of Syria. The will, that's what is needed. We also would like to welcome the intention of the UN to establish a laboratory in Kamishli on the basis of the city's national hospital. It's good news that we heard in Geneva from Imran Reza, resident coordinator in Damascus. We would like to receive more information on the UN plans in this regard, how it will be equipped, how the test samples will be collected, especially in the hard-to-reach areas not under Damascus control, etc. And now on sanctions. Repetitive slogans on humanitarian exemptions are, not worth a penny. To those colleagues who keep on insisting on harmlessness of unilateral restrictive measures to ordinary citizens, and in particular to Christoph, who addressed to me yesterday, I highly recommend to Google a recent EU Commission, quote, guidance note on the provisions of humanitarian aid to fight the COVID-19 pandemic in certain environments subject to EU restrictive measures, end quote, as of May 11, that is specifically and timely focused on Syria. This document fully proves quite the opposite. Let me just quote one excerpt. Quote, sanctions may alter countries' ability to fight COVID-19 by affecting the procurement of certain goods and technologies, either because such goods are subject to restrictions, for instance, dual-use goods, which can also be used for military purposes, or because the persons involved in their procurement are sanctioned. In addition, there may be an indirect but significant effect caused by certain operators' unwillingness to engage in transactions related to a sanctioned country or individual, even if those are legitimate over compliance, for fear of accidentally violating the sanctions or a lack of economic incentives to engage in comparison to the risks stemming from those transactions. In addition, those targeted by restrictive measures may pass on to the civilian population the economic consequences of international sanctions imposed on them, thus increasing hardship for the non-targeted civilian population, end quote. This is as to the claims aimed at whitewashing illegitimate sanctions regimes. As a recent example, negative experience of the Norwegian Refugee Council, when due to these restrictive measures, it refused from buying interactive educative programs for children in Syria. I want to attract the attention of our Belgian colleagues, since they are responsible in the Council for Children dossier. Summing up, colleagues, having negotiated resolutions on cross-border mechanism each time, we agreed on its urgent but temporary status. Do not pretend as if you don't know about it or probably want to forget. Stop cherry-picking your individual political dividends that have nothing to do with humanitarian principles. And I would like to repeat today, once again, what I said last time. Don't waste your time on efforts to reopen the closed cross-border points. OCHA should be encouraged to work with Damascus to find routes and cross-border points, as well as on cross-line deliveries to Northeast and throughout Syria. And of course, we want to hear answers to our new set of questions today. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Vassily. I now give